The ocean is home to some of the most frightening monsters known to mankind, but it looks like it might be home to the biggest mystery of them all, UFOs. The topic of UFOs might have left us scratching our heads previously, but the data coming out of the US Navy in recent years has left us rubbing our eyes in astonishment instead. Consider Exhibit A, the motherlode of evidence provided by Timothy Gallaudet, former chief oceanographer of the US Navy, a retired rear admiral no less, citing the 2019 brush with an unidentified foreign object hovering over a US battleship before abruptly plunging into the ocean. The episode raised a number of new questions given voice by the rear admiral and revised many misconceptions. First of all, it looked like the unidentified flying objects or UFOs and unidentified submersible objects or USOs are linked. In a recent paper titled "Beneath the Surface, We May Learn More About UAP by Looking in the Ocean," Gallaudet reached the fantastical conclusion that unidentified foreign objects are actually transmedium. Unidentified submersible objects, or what the Pentagon likes to call unidentified aerial phenomenon, and they have the capacity to fly in the air and swim in the ocean like submarines. He wrapped up the paper with the alarming conclusion that these transmedium vehicles could seriously jeopardize U.S. maritime security. Though extraordinary, the conclusions have left security analysts wondering with unease if they've been scanning the skies for clear and present danger while it's been hiding in the deep oceans all along. Is there any substance to Gallaudet's concerns, or are these just outlandish musings? Conclusions can only be based on facts, so let's see what the data is telling us. According to a Pew Research Center survey held in 2022, 65% of Americans believe in life beyond the Earth and in UFOs, and a 51% majority sincerely believe that the government's investigation into UAPs is further proof of aliens. There are a few incidents like the ones we'll describe that provide irrefutable evidence that unidentified submersible objects are a reality, with a few standing out in the crowd. USO has become the latest buzzword, and it's all due to the 18 months Gallaudet spent investigating such incidents, interviewing dozens of sailors, submariners, military personnel, and members of the U.S. Coast Guard, all of whom have seen suspicious activity around the ocean, and then publishing his findings. Gossip was going around the naval grapevine of something happening in July 2019 and the months after to a fleet of Navy warships sailing along the Southern California coastline. The story took another year to break when documentary filmmaker Jeremy Corbell released videos of the episodes online, which the Pentagon later verified. It was confirmed that several sailors were on board the battleships and saw them being swarmed by several UFOs. There was video footage taken by the sailors, which showed flashing objects hovering above the warships. Included was raw video footage of radar showing 9 blobs on the screens and infrared footage of one orb-shaped object diving into the ocean. The video evidence is so spectacular that the Pentagon could not deny it, and its authenticity was confirmed by the highest government agencies. This couldn't have happened by chance, as it went on for several hours and was followed by similar occurrences repeating throughout the following months. Corbell confirmed that the sailors who saw everything swore that the swarm was no small thing, as it was composed of at least 100 UFOs capable of feats far beyond that of traditional drones, since they were able to surround multiple warships at the same time. This didn't happen once, but it was a series of events happening over different warships at different times. So many sailors witnessed the incidents that it couldn't be ignored. So what happened that it's upended the official narrative completely? Let's take a look. It started with what happened on March 30th, 2019, when a whopping 8 unknown objects were spotted by the sailors of the USS Harper's Ferry flying at an altitude of 500 feet. This was followed by another event on April 24th, 2019, this time involving the USS Zumwalt, which identified 6 drones flying overhead in the same area. The same thing happened on July 15th, 2019, when the USS Paul Hamilton is alleged to have been followed by drones for 4 hours. The USS Bunker Hill reported being followed by 11 objects. Meanwhile, the USS Ralph Johnson reported 14 drones surrounding it. On the same night, the USS Omaha was surrounded by 9 objects on the radar. Footage of a radar screen detecting a swarm over the ship shows 9 objects moving up to 138 knots, which is more than 158 miles per hour, with winds of 31 knots. But what happened next is the pinnacle of Timothy Gallaudet's argument. One object seemed to hover over the ship's side before shooting directly downwards into the ocean, and it disappeared with a splash. The video footage showing the radar screen also recorded the comments of the sailors in the background, saying they heard a splash as it hit the water. Another event occurred on July 17, 2019, when the USS Russell observed 3 objects flying over it for an hour. On July 21, 2019, USS Paul Hamilton again spotted drones ahead. On July 25, 2019, USS Gabriel Giffords observed 4 drones overhead and proceeded to request help from the nearby USS Pinckney. This was followed by another incident on July 30, 2019, when sailors aboard USS Russell witnessed 2 groups of lights overhead for a period of about 3 hours. At the same time, USS Paul Hamilton reported that multiple drones were overhead, some of which were only 200 yards from it. It should be noted that the personnel used the word drones in need of a better word. Out of all these incidents, the Omaha incident has become the gold standard for UFO aficionados for some pretty striking and undeniable observation. It's given birth to the term unidentified submersible objects, which was coined after a flying object flew straight into the ocean. The idea that such technology exists on Earth, which is beyond the comprehension and capability of the defense forces, is a nightmare. Were these contact attempts? And why was there such an intense barrage of it in a couple of months together? Were these reconnaissance missions, and Gallaudet's alarm is well placed? We'll come back to that question later, but first, let's look at how common such sightings are. Such stories are not new to U.S. airmen and sailors. Now, a little about the agencies already keeping track of these incidents. Between 1947 and 1969, at the height of the Cold War, Project Blue Book was put together by a top-secret Air Force team to keep an eye on these incidents. It recorded reports of more than 12,000 UFO sightings. A couple of decades later, the National UFO Reporting Center, or NUFORC, was established in the United States to document such incidents, and its reports show that such incident reports are climbing. Though there were 2 dips noted in 2018 and 2021, by 2022 things have changed, which ended with more than 5,000 alleged UFO sightings. Reports peaked at 8,800 in 2014 and 7,400 in 2020. Then, news of the naval incidents broke and interest peaked once again. In 2022, surveys conducted showed that 17% of Americans said they thought it was likely that aliens will visit the Earth, just a little behind the global 18%. The responses recorded in India, China, and Latin America showed an even higher score for likelihood. By May 2023, close to 1,400 sightings have been recorded. All in all, more than 80,000 UFO sightings have been noted by NUFORC. So, what's the significance of the incidents of 2019, and why is so much noise being made? So it seems we've been getting visits from our buddies in the sky for a long time. But the equation has changed with the documented incidents reported by the seamen. These incidents have created such pressure that the cat has finally escaped the bag. The ramifications of such incidents are too serious to ignore. And finally, government officials are answering questions. In a May 2022 hearing in front of a panel of House representatives, top Pentagon officials confessed that they have a record of over 400 reports from military personnel of possible encounters with unidentified foreign objects, which is a reversal of the 144 figure mentioned in a major report released by the U.S. intelligence community before that. The report, released on June 25, 2022, was a watershed event with a certified government agency coming out straight and accepting that these incidents are real, not just stories. The 9-page report, released to Congress and the public, detailed 144 observations of such objects by U.S. Navy personnel dating back to 2004. Though now there is undisputed acceptance that such incidents are real, the only dispute is over what these objects are. Such a ruckus has been created over these reports that the U.S. Department of Defense finally directed the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, or AARO, to investigate the incidents. In June 2021, the government released a 9-page report outlining the results of the investigation into the incidents that had been reported dating back to 2004. It outlined a series of questions related to the unidentified aerial phenomenon. Are these advanced earthly technologies, or atmospherics or objects of an extraterrestrial origin? The report also insists that these unidentified objects were actually, quote, drones, which raises more questions rather than answering them. The crewmen logged the objects as drones because they had to respond quickly, and the system only allowed them to record the incident report. This has played into the official verdict as Navy chiefs represented by the Deputy Director for Naval Intelligence, Scott Breyer, dismissed the evidence, saying he was reasonably confident that the objects were drones. But according to naval records made public due to the Freedom of Information Act or FOIA, the capabilities showcased by these drones, like hovering at altitudes of up to 21,000 feet, flying for more than 4 hours, traveling long distances in a single flight, and being invulnerable to anti-drone Navy technology. If these were drones, they weren't like any drones known to humans. And where did they come from? Well, that's easy, as the same report also concluded that the drones were quadcopter-style unmanned aerial systems, or UASs, and most likely flew from a Hong Kong-registered freight ship, Bass Strait, docked nearby. The super suspicious ship was innocently docked in Long Beach, California, only 100 miles from all the action, but according to the report, its activities were nefarious. These arguments lack a leg to stand on and have been received with a lot of scorn by UFO connoisseurs. But the question remains, what sort of quadcopters can dive underwater? Hold that thought. Consider this. More than 80% of the ocean remains unexplored. It's all down to physics. Exploring the ocean is as difficult as exploring the universe, but more difficult in some ways. Once deep enough, visibility becomes zero. The temperature is extremely cold, and pressure is strong enough to crush an entire vessel. To put it simply, at sea level, our bodies experience 15 pounds of pressure per square inch. Going up into space is easier, as the higher you go, the less pressure there is until it reaches zero. But if you went deep diving, the same pressure would stack up the further you went down until splat. Take the Mariana Trench, for example, which is just 7 miles deep. The pressure would be 1,000 times more than on the surface. So the ocean remains one of the greatest mysteries right on our doorstep, and it's the best place for an enemy to hide. So the concern is well deserved. But how are security strategists taking it? Unfortunately, the investigations held into these occurrences have fallen far short of the mark on many counts. The argument that these were just quadcopters being used to spy on U.S. Navy battleships does not ring true and is taken as a joke. However, for Gallaudet and others who agree with him, these occurrences need to be taken seriously, since they have such serious implications for U.S. security. Imagine our troops fighting against an enemy with such a technological edge over our forces. A battle with an enemy capable of such advanced vehicles would be devastating, and that's the point under discussion. There's a definite lack of research and the data on this phenomenon, which has been relegated to a box labeled cuckoo. We might have a long way to go before these questions are handled with a modicum of seriousness. However, a gradual change is coming in how such questions are now received. But there might be a silver lining to this cloud, named Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick. Newly appointed to the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, or AARO, he's brought a breath of fresh air to an otherwise stale atmosphere in the offices. He's also promised to follow the data wherever it takes him, which might just be to outer space or the ocean floor. At least Congress is looking at this matter with gravity and established the office recently to coordinate efforts across federal agencies to detect, identify, and attribute mysterious objects of interest in the air, in outer space, and underwater, with a special focus on mitigating potential threats to military operations and national security. So the government has finally sat up and taken notice. Not a moment too soon, as technology has reached just the right stage where the development of AI can help in making the necessary technological advances that could help us explore our oceans and deal with any threats coming from across the borders, outer space, or even from within our oceans. All we need is the will. Now check out Soviet Union declassified UFO encounters revealed, or watch this video instead.